So, okay, I'll be with you in a sec, right, live on Facebook. And then I'll tag you as well so that it's automatically going live on yours.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. I did make an event to publish, but I don't know if everyone's got so much on at the moment. But anyway, that's fine.
I know. I just want to... I meant for it to go live on my Woman of Stature page, and I've clicked before I... So I'm actually on my own now. But I suppose I can change it. I can just close it and change it. Okay. Okay. Let's try again. Oh, it's still in live stream. Okay, hold on a sec. Okay, there we go. I needed to get out of Facebook. Doesn't want to stop live streaming now. Okay. Okay. Seems as though we are live streaming anyway. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It is 12 o'clock. It is Tuesday, the 25th of August, and oh my goodness, how time flies. I've been having an absolute ball these last couple of weeks, where I have been interviewing the remarkable woman, the phenomenal woman, the inspiring woman, who have all contributed their stories in the Forgotten Woman of COVID. Forgotten Woman, the South African Story book, which is a fundraising initiative to raise funds for the Forgotten Woman of COVID-19 project. So you may ask, why the book? Well, at the end of the day, it turns out that we all have a story to tell. There's always something in our lives that has steered us in a certain direction. And every one of us has something unique that has happened in our lives. And it has been an extraordinary journey for me to get to know these women, and quite intimately so, because their stories within the book, the chapters that they've written of their own life journey, is quite intimate, because we're getting to know the deep, the deepness of their pain, but also the joy that has come out of the circumstances that they may have found themselves in. So it's really been an incredible experience for me, and one that I'm extremely grateful for, because I've been growing. It's amazing how when you are willing to open yourself up and tap into the minds and the hearts and the souls of others, how it actually helps you to grow and develop. Because I don't think that we realize that we have got so much capacity. We can absorb so much information, and it just helps us to sometimes also bring some clarity in our own lives, because I know we often find ourselves in a place of darkness, in a place of pain, and we feel that it's only happening to me. Woe is me. But oh my goodness, that's not the case. And I've certainly found that in reading these chapters. And Kathy, I'm so excited to have you as my guest today. Kathy Mann, you have yourself gone through some deep waters. And, you know, I think for anyone that's gone through what you have gone through, and you are now able to really, you've got that empathy now for people that are coming out of those similar circumstances. And I think that's the time when one realizes that empathy is really a characteristic that makes you understand people more, and that your circumstances are in some way similar but yet different to other people, but yet there's that you know, there's that area of what can I call it, where you can resonate.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yeah, where you can resonate. So Kathy, let's kick off by finding out more about Kathy Mann. Who is Kathy Mann? And tell us a little bit about your, you know, your family, where you grew up, and just some good information that we need from you at this point in time to get to know you better.
Okay. So I was born in the 70s. I was born and raised in Johannesburg. I had an older brother, and we were quite well off as financially when we were young, which was great. But my childhood was quite tumultuous, not entirely happy all the time. But I think, as you said, you know, it's that adversity that makes us quite a lot stronger. And then, yeah, I went to university in Cape Town, which was a wonderful experience, 4 years there, where I met my husband. And now I'm married about 13 or 14 years, and I have 2 little girls, aged 11 and 8, and absolutely adore them, and still in Johannesburg.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you have become an author of your own books, and that came as a result of the circumstances you found yourself in. So that was the incident that obviously was the catalyst to you writing your own books. But just in that respect, what would you say if you were to look back in time and you were to tell that little girl, Kathy, the little girl, tell her something that could possibly have been life-changing for you? What would that one thing be that you would like to say to the little me, Kathy?
Sure. I think the most significant thing that's been a theme through my life is around accepting my own value. I didn't really see it, you know, as a child and as an adolescent and a young person. So it's taken sort of into my 40s to realize that I have value. I have something valuable to offer the world, and the world, you know, would be changed if I wasn't there for, you know, a variety of people. So I think knowing your own value has tremendous power. And I think when we undervalue ourselves, we kind of let ourselves down because we don't volunteer for opportunities. We're not as bold in accepting chances to really make a difference in the world. So I really think that little girl needed to know that she's valuable and she's precious, and she has an opportunity to impact people around her with what she's going to do in her life.
Mm. And I also, you know, having spoken to a couple of ladies now, as I say, over the last while, I also realize that as young girls, we tend to listen to what other people are saying, and we get influenced in a way that can be so detrimental to us, isn't it? And I mean, I think as a young girl, I can speak for myself that I allowed people's comments to really yeah, it used to hurt me, and it used to make me feel insecure. So it's so important. And I guess you, as a mother of 2 beautiful little girls, I guess that's what you want for them.
Yes, absolutely. So I think all the lessons I've learned through this journey that I've traveled is very valuable for them, because, you know, children never do what you say, they do what you do. So if they can see you learning that you love yourself and you're kind to yourself and you value yourself, they start to emulate that naturally. And those are the kind of things I want them to know, that they have value and they're significant and they make a difference to our family unit and they can contribute to the world in important ways. So those are the things that I want to impart on them. You know, if I wasn't here, I want them to remember, you know, Mom always taught us to value ourselves, our contribution, and what we bring. So that would be a big shift from my childhood, because, you know, and I think my parents had no idea that I kind of felt not important or not valued. They just didn't realize that. It's not really a failing on their part. It was just the way kids were raised back then. But I think now I'm much more conscious about making them feel, you know, be very clear that they're loved and valued.
No, that is important, and I think any child that is receiving that from their parent will grow up to be, you know, a child that is not insecure and will understand themselves better. So, who would you say, Kathy, were, or even still are, your role models that you look up to, and that have obviously been, like some are saying, you know, that you are standing on the shoulders of giants? So who would they be that have made an influence in your life?
Gosh, it's a tricky one. You know, I remember as a little girl thinking, you know, we watched, I'm dating myself terribly now to admit, when I was a child, we watched that show called Dynasty. Yes. And there was this character called Alexis Carrington, and she had this magnificent hat always. And in those days, you know, it was quite unusual for a woman to be the boss of these big corporations. And she used to sort of swan into these meetings, and there used to be a big boardroom of men, her minions, and she would then just, you know, arbitrarily fire this one and fire that one. And I thought that was fabulous. I thought, wow, she's so sort of impressive and powerful, and that's kind of what I want. I want to be this executive, you know. So that was sort of the theme when I was a child, kind of growing up. And then as I've kind of gone through different life experiences and come out the other side of corporate, I think it's probably, you know, people like my grandmother, who's really quite a beautiful person and really valued family and parenting and love. And a person, she's still alive. She's going to be 95 this year. And just a contribution to her greater family. She's such a matriarch, full of love and that. So that's the kind of person I think now really appeals to me now.
Yeah, you're talking about Joan Collins. I remember that so well, you know.
Yes,
I think Dynasty left its mark on most of us. I can tell you, we all had characters that we followed. So I remember those wide shoulder pads. Remember the clothes they wore? And I remember that era, and I always had these wide shoulder pads just because that's how they dressed in Dynasty. So, no, that's interesting though, how a character can sometimes make you want to appear to be this very strong, powerful woman. But being in the corporate life is obviously something that you've experienced, and much of that is what you write about in your chapter, as well as in your first book that I believe talks about what it was that you succumbed to as a result of somebody that was working in a very, very busy and extremely almost competitive corporate environment. Would you like to just share with us what was that experience and how it impacted on you? And then obviously we'll go on to the next question, or the next topic, which is, you know, how has stress now, especially under these circumstances, how it's impacted people in general? So yes,
yeah,
love to hear more.
So I think I loved the corporate years for a while. I really loved the experience, and I think I grew a tremendous amount from being involved in very big projects. So there was great growth from my 20s and 30s. That was a really valuable experience, to be involved in projects that are like 10 million rands worth of impact to an organization, and, you know, those really big scale. So that was wonderful, but I didn't enjoy the culture of the kind of, you know, backstabbing sort of feeling. You know, it was very competitive in terms of how we were rated. So we were evaluated on a forced ranking scale, and they would say, Kathy is in the top 10, and then there's the 30%, and then there's a 70, and then the ones sort of towards the bottom, those are the ones that sort of get encouraged to leave and but be pushed out. So I felt like I was quite a high performer for a long time. But I felt when I left on maternity leave, everything changed for me, because I came back after sort of 4.5 months of being responsible for keeping another human being alive. And I came back into this environment after all that nurturing. And it was just such a juxtaposition, almost this contrast with I'm building a little life in a person. And then I came back into the space where in my absence, people had undermined me and, done all these things. And I thought, wow, I just don't want to be here. I don't fit. I don't belong anymore. So I think having a baby really shifted my feeling of belonging, and I didn't really want that any longer. Just didn't work for me. And at that point, then I left and joined my father's business for, so 5 years going forward. I worked in a smaller business, which was even more stressful in the corporate environment, funnily enough, from the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah. So stress is basically what you are now really almost to the point where you're specializing in managing stress, which as a result of your burnout and your experience there. So, looking at stress levels at this point in time during COVID-19, the lockdown, the pandemic, the confusion, the upheaval, how would you say that ranks, if you can call it that, to what people in general have experienced anyway within corporates and that high level performance all the time?
Yeah, I think it's quite a different form of stress. So I'm interviewing people for my next book, and I'm finding that when I ask them, are you more stressed or are you less stressed? It's very interesting. Some people feel they're a lot more stressed because their management is really pressuring them a lot more, and because they're not visible in the office, they've got all these expectations. Some people feel they're less stressed because they don't have the commute and it's quite chilled out. They can sleep a little bit longer and it's quite relaxed. But others find there's a different form of stress during the lockdown that particularly entrepreneurs have felt. A lot of people have lost income. A lot of people have had to really pivot their businesses and shift. So I think that resilience, if you've built that resilience along the way of, being kind of tough-minded in terms of your experiences you've carried along the way, you're a lot better equipped then to be able to say, right, I'm going to now change my business. I'm going online. I'm tackling an international market. I'm changing things a little bit. So it's almost, I think the stress that has come has offered us an opportunity to be stronger and more resilient during the pandemic time, to be able to deal with what has faced us.
Yeah, I think it's, as you say, everybody responds differently to it. I remember when you interviewed me and you said so, and I said, oh no, it's actually been wonderful, and I've pivoted my business, and I was like all enthusiastic about it. So, and then something that you said was, which was quite interesting, was that you said it's almost like my age group are managing better than the younger people, because it just is. So why would that be?
I think it's life experience, really. I mean, there's a beautiful stress response that's called stress inoculation. So when something happens, what happens is our brain kind of goes into that spiral of, I shouldn't have said that, and I should never have done that. And really, that's the process of wisdom. So the stress of a situation that didn't go according to plan kind of prepares you for the future, because your brain, the parts of the brain that light up are related to learning and memory. So when that happens, we're starting to think, okay, I shouldn't have done that. Next time something similar happens, I'm going to be equipped. And I think the people who are in the older age group, they've almost been through so many challenging and difficult experiences that they're able to deal with the pivots easier than people that have never experienced this level of adversity before. So I love the fact that adversity strengthens people. It really makes people grow into a better and stronger version of them. themselves.
Yes.
And I think that's happened for a lot of people through the pandemic. Yeah.
So we've got some ladies that are online with us, and I see Rita's being quite proactive, and she's asking some questions or making some comments already. So Rita says, Alexis Carrington was a woman to reckon with. Oh, that was when you were talking about dynasty, yeah. And then she says, the corporate world is cold and lonely when there is competition, especially when there is ranking or balanced scorecard. Kills innovation. Not surprised it did not work for you after you had your precious baby. Yes, it's so true. Yeah. So tell us about your two little girls. I mean, they're your ray of sunshine. So share with us. What are their names, their ages?
Okay, my oldest is Christine, and she's very introverted and shy, but completely off the charts creative. She is the most creative person I've ever met, and the things she constructs are absolutely awe-inspiring. So I'm very excited to see where she takes her future. There's definitely design and technology in there, so that's pretty exciting. And then my little one is Sarah, and she's 8, and she's kind of the firecracker of the house. You know, I don't know where this crazy, wild, fun-loving child comes from, because I'm quite reserved and quiet. And but boy, she keeps us on our toes. She's an early bird. She wakes us up at the crack of dawn, and the laughter and the fun she brings is a real contribution to our little family.
So it's very interesting that one has, as you say, you've got two little girls that come from the same parents, and yet they are two totally different personalities and characteristics are so different. And then as they grow up, you start to see more and more and more of that. It's quite incredible. So with it being Women's Month, and obviously it's a very important month in the history of South Africa, but with it being and knowing, you know, that there are so many women that are so eager to learn and to you know, basically be mentored and so on, what would some of your pearls of wisdom be to these women, just about life in general, and maybe being a woman that has obviously gone through motherhood and being through a burnout experience? What would some of your pearls of wisdom be to these women, Kathy?
Okay, I think motherhood has taught me to be flexible. I think I was quite rigid, and I like things to go the way I wanted things to go, you know. But becoming a mother really teaches you to roll with the punches. You never know when you're feeding a baby, you know, you never know how much they're going to eat. You never know when they're going to wake up. And as much as you try to put them into your little routine and force them into your plans, all sorts of things crop up, and every phase is different. So, you know, just as soon as you think you know what you're doing, something new arises, and then you don't know what you're doing again. So I think motherhood has really taught me to just let go a little bit and just let them be who they want to be, accept what's going on right in front of you, instead of trying to control. You know, often we feel safe when everything's in control. But motherhood is not like that. You know, you've got all sorts of curveballs thrown at you every other week. And I think that's really quite an important lesson, to learn to let go a little bit. And I think the other one would be to become your best friend, your own best friend. I think that's a journey that I'm still on. I've always traditionally been very hard on myself. And I know many A-type personalities and other women are like that. They really push themselves so hard. And one of the things I've learned is that if you stress and self-compassion are actually connected. So the more you learn to love yourself and cut yourself some slack every now and then, the lower your stress levels. So it's really an important skill to start to just, you know, if you mess up, it's okay. We're human. Just move on, you know, just take the lesson and just carry on regardless. Don't obsess and mull over it because everybody else has forgotten. And you're the only one putting yourself through all this pain by going over and over the same mistakes. So just, you know, just kind of let go and learn to love yourself. That would be the most important lessons, I think.
No, absolutely. You're right that we tend to be very hard on ourselves. And I guess that's partly why you actually did suffer the burnout, is because you were not being sympathetic towards yourself, and you were driving yourself into the ground until it was almost too late.
Yeah.
Tell us about that specific experience. What were the symptoms, and that you started to realize something's not right?
Okay. I think for many years, it took me a couple of years to get there. And I think I kind of ignored signs along the way, because that's what I was like. I just kept pushing and ignoring what was happening in my body. But it came towards the end of 2014, it became really unmanageable. So I got really radical headaches and fatigue. And the fatigue was so bad, to give you an idea, that recovering from a shower was necessary. So if I stood in the shower for 10 minutes and washed myself, I literally had to sit down on a little step in my bathroom to just recover from the standing of that. So that level of fatigue was something I had never, ever felt before. And it's so incapacitating, because, no one can see it from the outside. So people just think you're lazy or you're making it up, So that was terrible. That was the first stages. And then what unfolded was a lot of the thyroid related issues, which were, I got a lot of the tremors. My hands started to shake a lot of overheating and sweating, sleepless nights. I couldn't sleep, disturbed sleep, heart palpitations. So I had to go on beta blockers to kind of calm down the heart for a while. And then of course, all the other stuff with thyroid, you get weight gain, anxiety and depression, all of that stuff started to bubble up. And finally, I got the diagnosis that I had an autoimmune disease that was triggered by the stress. And that happened in January 2015. And I had to then start treatment and to try to unravel the mess that I'd got myself into.
Yeah, I think it's as you say, it took a while for you to realize to what extent it was actually damaging you physically and mentally. And then how long were you actually almost to the point where you just couldn't manage? How long was that period of time? Because I know that you mentioned it took you a few years to recover.
Yeah, so the recovery was about 3 years, and obviously I got incrementally better. So 2015 was a really hard year. It was the absolute worst. And also just to grapple with, what was ahead of me as an A-type personality who loves goals and to love push. And, and I was an ultra marathon runner. I loved comrades and two oceans, and I couldn't do any personal goals. I had no professional goals. It was a really hard period. But then, 2016, 2017, I started to slowly learn how to look after myself, for starters, and to get better through all the medical care and all the other kinds of healing that I looked for. So it was a long, long process. And I think, I took many years to get there. So it made sense to get many years to dig me out of that hole.
Yeah. And that led you to write your first book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my first book is Avoiding Burnout, and it's really my story of how I got there. And the reason I wrote it is that I realized if my life was pretty healthy, I thought. I was a runner, I was eating fresh fruit and vegetables. I thought that I was doing all the right things, but I didn't realize that stress would cause that level of illness. And if I didn't know, then I thought there's many other people in the world who also don't know. So in sharing my story, I thought I can help people if their lives look a little similar, or if they can resonate with some aspects, then perhaps they can learn, be a bit wiser than I was and pull back a little bit or make small changes to get themselves off that trajectory that I was on. So that was really the intention behind that book, to share my story and to offer guidelines from the lessons I learned. Because of course I went into a great analysis to figure out how this happened and why me and what was wrong with my life. And I started to unpack, my relationships were a bit of a mess. And there was a lot going on with my work, was not aligned to who I was. I had no play, I had no rest. All of those things I had to sort of unpack and unravel. And I share all of that in my book so that I can guide people to not make that mistake that I made.
And then that followed on with another 2 books. Is it on similar topics?
Yeah, the second book I wrote is called Harnessing Stress. So that one is really about how do we benefit from stress? Because in my journey, I wrote Avoiding Burnout as this big lesson and warning. And I was going around, doing all my speeches and trying to save the world from stress. And then I came across some really interesting research that completely pulled the rug from under me. because I learned that research shows that what we believe about stress really matters. And when we believe that stress is harmful, we're actually more likely to die earlier. So I thought I better stop telling the world that stress is bad. I better start sharing ways where we can thrive with stress and sharing all the lessons that I learned along my own journey. So harnessing stress is really about how do we take it as fuel? How do we use it as an opportunity to thrive and shine if we really know how to work with it? So a lot of the time, I think we kind of work against our bodies. You know, we think, oh, I'm getting so stressed. This body of mine is failing me and it's not doing what it should. But actually, it's giving you a message to say, something's going on here. If you can wake up and say, oh, boy, thanks. I've got some energy now because I'm about to do a speech, or I've got a deadline. I feel this real push for the deadline. It's actually quite a gift. So if we learn to see those blessings and be grateful for them and work with our physiology, then life is a whole lot better. So that's really what that the second book was all about.
And where are your books available to purchase if anybody is interested in getting hold of your books?
Okay, thanks. So locally, they're at the bookstores, so Exclusive Books and stores like that. And Take a Lot, it's also online. And then, of course, Amazon, there's ebooks there, there's the Kindle version and the paperback for anyone internationally if they want to buy it from there. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. But now, obviously, your story is also, or at least a part of your story is also in the book, Forgotten Woman, the South African Story. What was it about collaborating with us in this particular book that was that intrigued you?
I think what I love is the fact that there's so many women in our country and in the authors of these chapters that have really suffered and struggled, and yet look at the beauty and the grace that has come out of that. So it's almost like a real privilege to be in the company of some really magnificent, strong, inspiring, powerful women. And that really is quite a blessing for me to almost just be in the same environment and get to learn about them and get to know them and their stories. So that's, I think, what appealed to me the most.
And have you seen around your community, have you seen people that are adversely affected as a result of lockdown?
Definitely. So I've done about 30 interviews for my next book, and there have been many people that have lost something like 70% of their income. So that's really dramatic. A lot of entrepreneurs and individual, single business owners have really been hit hard. So I can see that there's great value in being able to contribute to those, help those people, support the women who have really been impacted by that. So that's quite meaningful for me as well.
Yeah, I think that's at the end of the day, we realize that we can't help everybody, but if we could at least help one or two families to overcome. And I think, any one of us that are business owners, you've put your heart and your soul into something and you've nurtured it and you've grown it, and then suddenly the carpet gets pulled out from under you because of a global pandemic, and things are totally out of your control. And I guess this is the big thing with the book, is that we are really just wanting to reach out to at least a few people to say, a few women to say, if we can help you to regain your momentum again in your book, in your business. That's what the book is about. It's not about, helping somebody to start up a new business. It's about women that have actually been on this journey of working long hours, stretching themselves, and then something like this happens. So that's really what this is about. And obviously your contribution to the book is aiding us in order to do that, and to try and sell the book. So what is your next book you were talking about is featuring people who you've interviewed with regards to what's happening, or just in general?
I think, well, it's mainly about how the pandemic and the lockdown has impacted people in their lives in general. So in factors like their work experience, what's happened for their jobs, their income, and also how people's lifestyles have changed. So it's been very interesting to hear, some people have got a lot fitter because when when we weren't allowed to exercise, then they wanted to exercise. As soon as it was opened up, boy, they've become really active all of a sudden. And other people, you know, are eating a big packet of crisps at 12 at night and not so healthy. So it's really interesting just for me to see how the impacts affect people's lifestyles and their state of mind and what they've done. And there's some beautiful stories. And the one lady said that she had always wanted to start a new business, and this was the catalyst. And she's made more money in 1 month, you know, now than she has in her other corporate past. So it's so exciting to see people rising, you know, almost in this environment. And it is always possible in difficult times to shine if you have the right mindset.
And tell me, Kathy, are you consulting with people that are going through any form of distress or stress? Have you made it into like a more professional career of yours?
Yeah, so I have individual sessions where I guide people into the stress reframing procedure. So how to shift stress, how to understand those different stress responses and kind of work with their physiology. So I do have some one-on-one experiences on that. And I also offer things like webinars to guide coaches so that they can embed those practices in their own practice.
And you were talking earlier on about you're going to be recording your training. What training is that specifically? Is it what you're referring to now, or is it something different? Did you hear me? Oh.
Yes, I did. I got it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm working on an online course, which is really based on my second book, and it is teaching people all about how to harness stress, so how to work with it and collaborate with the physiology. And I have a wonderful American partner. So he is very fun, and he brings a lot of humor and enthusiasm. I'm the serious one with all the content and the, you know, I bring the serious research side, and he brings a little bit of frivolous fun. So we're recording on Monday and Tuesday, and then we're going to do all the slicing and dicing of the videos, and we hope to release that in the next couple of weeks. So we're very excited about the course, and I think it's going to bring great value to hopefully to the world, to help them see stress in a good, positive light.
And where will we get access to this? Is it something that one has to buy? Is it on your website, or where would that be?
We're firstly going to launch it on the Udemy platform. So that's the online training platform called udemy.com. And then we'll sample how that works. If we don't like the tool after a while, we might put it on different platforms. But for now, that's going to be the best location for it, because there's a lot of personal growth and development courses on there, which is very valuable.
No, that's fantastic. So, and you do know that Women of Stature has also now developed an online academy. And we would, wonderful, you know, would love to chat to you around that as well, because if we can get access to that, our members could get access to that. Maybe that's something we need to talk about as well. So, Kathy, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting to you and getting to know a little bit more about you. Just a final few, you know, few little questions. So, imagine yourself being in a position of power. Let's call it a position of power in our country. What would be one or two of the things that you would like to be responsible for to see change?
Yeah, I think one of the things for me, you know, that load shedding has been such an issue, and I believe our country has quite a power crisis. For me, I really think there's a tremendous amount of talent in our country, amazing, incredible people. And I think in townships, there's entrepreneurs who have fantastic capacity to alleviate this problem. So if I had a position of power for a day in government, I would allocate a lot of funds to alternative power sources, you know, solar, wind, any kind of mechanism to get certain areas off the grid, and to empower those entrepreneurs, to give them the funding and the support and the guidance to be able to alleviate this big problem in our country. Because I think it would be win-win. It would help the community and businesses thrive a lot better with the right power sources. And I think it can uplift a whole group of people who have great capacity to add value to our country. That would really be the big thing for me.
Now, I agree with you, because power is a huge problem, and many companies are being affected, and many households are being affected, and it's not making things any easier all round. So good on you. So in other words, you want to take on Eskom. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would like to offer alternative sources and empowering those clever people at the same time. My daughter has one of her set works in English this year is that book, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and from Malawi. And he was just a rural kid who figured out how to, empower his whole community by using a windmill. Yes. Simple things like that. I think if you could take clever people that are in those communities and give them what they need, I believe we can really make a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. And as you say, it just takes one person to start. It's not about what the others can do for us, but what we can do for others. And I think that is a message as well, that people mustn't sit back and always expect things to just come right. But what are we actually doing to help the situation? So in passing, I would say that, Kathy, I've gotten to know you so much better over the last year. When I first met you, it was actually when you launched your book. I was at Scoops the day, and that was the first time I had actually set eyes on you, so I really didn't know you that well. And it's amazing how our relationship has evolved over the past year, in fact, with this book. And I think this is what I'm so loving about this whole project, is that I'm growing so much closer to women like yourself, and starting to see a different side to you as well. And when I read your story, oh my goodness, I tell you, I don't know if any of the ladies that are online with us now have actually read Kathy's chapter. Rita, Isabel, Aniki, have any of you read the chapter yet? If not, please do, because it is really, really, it's moving, to say the least. It's very moving, to say the least.
Thanks, Lola. So I appreciate that.
Yes. So, Kathy, I really look forward to seeing more develop from your side, and I'm sure that there are, many opportunities that we can still explore with you. And like I've just invited you to be one of our speakers at our next summit. And what I'm obviously very excited about as well is that we are going to be having the book in paperback, so we will be printing the book eventually. We actually have already decided on the day and the date that we're going to do the official launch, and that you might as well just put that in your diary. It's on the 27th of November. We're going to make sure that we have copies available to sell, and we are going to start taking pre-orders for the book as well. And that day we will be giving all of our contributors an opportunity to introduce themselves. And we're hoping to do it in collaboration with the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We already have, and I've just very proudly have just signed the official MOU with the JCCI, which says that we are now cooperating with them. We've pledged to enhance the liaison and cooperation between our respective organizations to open up more doors of opportunity for our Women of Stature members. So from me to you, Kathy, all I can say is well done, and continue the great work that you're doing. And wherever we can be of support to you as well, please don't hesitate to press on my button. And thank you to the ladies that were online with us today. And I really appreciate all the support that we've got from everybody through your own networks. If we can just continue to promote the book, that people do actually buy the book, and that we can, together, we can make a difference in the lives of some of these women that are obviously suffering the dire consequences of this terrible pandemic and the economic crisis that it is causing for so many. So, to you,
thank you so much, Charlotte, for everything. I really appreciate the opportunity to collaborate in such a beautiful project. And it's really great that the work you do to empower other entrepreneurs and to lift them up. I think it's really great. So keep doing that.
Thank you so much. And thanks again to the ladies that are here with us. The recording, as I say, I will be sharing with you as well. Then you can put it out to all your friends and family as well, Kathy, and it will also be going out to all our network. So to you again, thanks, and thank you for listening in, ladies, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.